You're listening to the Valley Labor Report with David Story and Jacob Morrison.
We are all born free, but forever live in chains, and we battle to existence on and on. We'll take whatever comes to be while keeping hopeful melody, and we'll cruise through the darkness until the warmth of dawn.
Folks, good morning. This is the Valley Labor Report. My name is Jacob Morrison, here with my co-host David Story. Joey, we kind of lost you on the other side. If you want to give us a call back, you can. That's amazing, that all that work that you've done. I appreciate. There's no telling how many folks he talk like he's got decades in the labor movement, decades in the union, been a president for a long time. No telling how many lives that brother's affected. So thank you for your service.
Positively affected, yes.
Yeah.
And we really wanted to know what union you was with. Give them a shout out, because you sound like somebody that I should know, and I may know you, or at least my dad knows you. And I just kind of wanted to have a little bit more conversation, but thanks for calling in.
Yeah, thanks for calling in.
What's the number they can call in at, Jake?
1-866-494-9866 is the number that you can call in, Joe, if you want to give us a call back, or anybody else. If you got a question about unions, folks, that is all we're doing today. We ain't talking about politics. We're not talking about Trump, not talking about news, nothing. We're just talking good old-fashioned workers' rights, good stuff. Not controversial.
Not controversial. not in the South, huh?
Yeah, not controversial today. Yeah, so we were talking about labor history books. He had another question. If we knew of any examples of famous labor leaders that rose to political power and their effects on society. And it seems to me that most of the time people who kind of rise to prominence in the labor movement, they just kind of tend to stay in the labor movement. They don't. But you mentioned this in your tweet, and Lula in Brazil is the obvious exception to that. Lula da Silva was the former president of Brazil. He came up through the union ranks. He was like an incredibly poor worker, came up in the union, rose to power in the union, got elected a bunch of times in the union. Then he ran for president of Brazil, and he won. And he presided over the largest growth that Brazil as a country has ever seen. And not only we're talking about the best like GDP growth, the best economic growth, like just as a whole, but also the majority, the super majority of that growth went to the working class.
Yep.
Lula da Silva in Brazil is, he was one of the most positive politicians for working people in the world. So read about
a stark difference from what they've got now, unfortunately.
No kidding. And the only reason he's not back in office is because they threw him in prison on trumped up charges that have been revealed to be trumped up now. It was all a bunch of BS, and they threw him in prison. Now he's out. Looks like he's going to run for president again the next time. But that's the only reason that Bolsonaro, I mean, he's a fascist. Like he was literally like, so in the South and Central America, there were all of these in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. There were all of these democratically elected worker-centered movements, and the oligarchies in those areas did not like that, and so they fomented.
Not only the oligarchies. Look at what the U.S. is doing in South and Central America.
Yeah, and so the oligarchies there and the American foreign policy apparatus did coups in these countries. They overthrew these democratically elected governments, and they installed their fascist dictators. I mean, they're literally like it's not like controversial for me to say. Like these are fascist. I mean, these are fascist dictators.
That reads knows
and Bolsonaro was a part of this dictatorship in Brazil. He was in like the leadership of it, and he said when somebody asked him if he had any criticisms about the dictatorship, he said that it was too soft on people. I mean, like, this guy's a fascist. And
well, I mean, it all goes back to the same thing as they do not want workers in control.
Right. They'll do everything they can to. I mean, they'll kill people. They literally in Brazil, they will kill people. They'll throw people in prison. They will. They'll take away your right to vote. They'll do anything that they can to keep more money for themselves.
Yep. One of the other ones, and I know I always go back to the machinists because it's the ones that I've studied the most. But Neil Armstrong was a machinist. I know he's not a political figure, but the first man to walk on the moon, machinist.
I didn't know. You know, that's neat.
Yeah.
That's really cool. Yeah, so Lula's really the only David, I don't know. I don't know how well versed in history. Lula's really definitely the most prominent.
You've got some, especially in South America, that kind of rose to power. Some of them that you don't have done some terrible things. Some of them that's done some good things. But it's kind of like I've been in the labor movement for quite some time, and I don't think a lot of labor leaders or, people that cut their teeth in the labor movement really see political action as a way to help workers. That's the unfortunate part because, I've got some political aspirations to possibly run for office, but it's really I just don't see a big benefit. So I think most labor leaders like to stay in the movement because they see that's where the most benefit to the workers comes from.
Right.
Politicians are such jokes when it comes to help. Both sides, they're terrible.
Thanks for tuning in. We appreciate your time. If you want to see what we're up to throughout the week and get our snide quips about the news of the day, then you should follow us on social media. We're on Facebook at facebook.com/Valley Labor Report. We're on Twitter at Labor Reporters. I'm on Twitter at JacobM_AL. David is on Twitter at Radical Unionist. That's spelled RADICL Unionist. If you missed part of the show and want to go back and watch it later, search YouTube for The Valley Labor Report and subscribe to our channel. You can go back and watch the full show there, and we also clip segments throughout the week. And we also upload the program on more than 11 different podcasting apps. So you can see if we're on your listening platform of choice. You can go to thevalleylaborreport.transistor.fm/subscribe. And if you appreciate our work and want to help us stay on the air, then consider throwing us a couple dollars a month on patreon.com/The Valley Labor Report.